Welcome to Simon Says, and thank you for joining me again. I have a sad story to tell, and I want to tell it because I want the powers that be to move swiftly in putting a proper primary health care system in place, especially in the rural areas. The former administration was well on their way in doing so. They built a polyclinic, beautiful polyclinic in St. John and a health clinic in St. Mark. But we can't have a polyclinic, or any clinic for that matter, opening hours 8 to 4, on an 8 to 4 opening hour schedule. And so it defeats the purpose. It defeats the purpose of primary health care. Primary health care is supposed to ease the burden or burdens on the hospitals, more so the general hospital. On the 1st of May, a 39-year-old young mother from St. Patrick, 9 months pregnant, started having complications. And so she had to be rushed to the emergency from St. Patrick to St. George's. Now, if we had that polyclinic up and running, she could have made that stop. When she got to the emergency, she was rushed to theater to have a C-section. The baby was in danger. She was in danger. Her life as well was in danger. Speaking to one of her close family member, her sister to be exact, I was told that she spent 5 hours in the theater and lost her baby in the process. She lost a lot of blood as well, and so she had to be transferred to the ICU when she came out of theater. After spending some time in ICU, I'm not sure how long it was, they removed she had to be put on a ventilator. When she went to ICU, she had breathing problems. And after a while, when they took it off, she still had breathing problems. So they did a tracheostomy on her. And for those of you who don't know what that is, a tracheostomy is putting an opening in the front of the neck in order to insert a tube down into the trachea, or the windpipe as we call it, to assist the patient in breathing. So that was done. And she was there at the ICU. Of course, did I mention she is a nurse? Well, was a nurse. And I expect, extra special care would have been given to her in the ICU. I mean, ICU, you always get extra special care, but I mean, dealing with one of your own, you know how that could be. So she did. She was coming along, according to her sister, she was coming along nicely. And they got a call on the morning of the 7th, I think it was Wednesday, the 7th of June. So she spent a month already in the ICU. They got a call that they needed medication for her, antibiotics and some other stuff, which they, of course, got and brought down to the hospital immediately, because she had developed a lung infection and subsequently pneumonia. On the Thursday the 7th, they got a call that she had passed. The morning of Thursday the 7th, they got a call that she had passed. So we lost a mother and a baby, because, in my opinion, we didn't have a polyclinic. Because what I was told happened with her at home in St. Patrick too, if she got to any clinic, any hospital quick enough, her baby could have been saved and her life as well, eventually. And after she died, they gave the family back the medication untouched. So it means that they didn't even have time to use the medication, the antibiotics and so on her. And she passed. She left alone 2 young kids, a daughter 12 years old and a son 7 years old. And I want to ask you for prayers for that family, for the kids. And may her soul and the soul of her baby rest in peace. I was at work one day last week, and the woman walked up to me and said, I saw you speaking on health, and I want to tell you this. They still have one doctor in the emergency. My daughter is asthmatic. She's been asthmatic all her life. I've been doing the emergency all her life. And it's getting worse. She said, I know the hospital, it wasn't, but it's getting worse. She said that she wasn't there with her daughter being nebulized. And to be nebulized, I should say, because I don't think they started the process yet, when they brought in a guy who had stab wounds. And the doctor then had to choose between looking after her asthmatic daughter, who needs to be nebulized, and patching the wounds of this guy who was stabbed in several places, apparently. And of course, he chose the guy. And she said, I had no problem with that. But we need to have more than one doctor, at least 2. Because we know there's a shortage. At least 2 in the emergency at any one time. Minister of Health, Prime Minister, whoever, to whom it may concern, let's get a move on this as quick as we can. Yeah, we know it's been like that before. We could go back to 2008, NDC, 2013, 2018, NNP. But you're here now. We can't ask NNP to do it. We have to ask you. And we beg of you, please, light the fire under the burner. We take a quick break and come right back. Welcome back. Let's have a quick conversation on this education, the announcement of the Minister of Education a few days before the CPEA results was announced. I say quick because it's early time yet, but I just want to sound a little warning. I want to understand at which point did the minister, the ministry, the government, the cabinet, whomever, realize that they wanted to go in that direction. Because when the results of the CPEA would have come out last year, this administration would have already been in office. And so if that's the way they thought they would go, why didn't consultations being held to the relative stakeholders, and why wasn't this announced before, way in advance, with the kids being anxious of which school is going to place first, which school is going to get the first position, and how much they're going to come, and if they're going to get their first pass, their first school, the first school that they have up on their paper, and all those anxiety and build up, and to drop it on them a few days before, just a few days, maybe 2-3 days before, to say to them, this is not going to happen. That's not going down too well. For me, it don't matter who come first, second, third, 10th, 20th, 100. It don't matter. But my concern is, are the schools, the secondary schools, ready, prepared for this universal education that we're talking about, where everybody goes into the secondary school? Are the kids prepared for that? I mean, some of them would have had second and third chances. And chances are they might have passed the second time or the third time. However, some of them, and most of them who didn't pass, would not have passed, it's probably because they're not academically inclined. Our secondary schools are mostly academically inclined, all of it. We have a few, I think, Boca Secondary, and maybe Happier Secondary to a point, do a little bit of technical stuff and vocational. And so that has always been there. But the St. Joseph's Convents, the GBSs, the PBC, the St. Andrew's Secondary, SAS, all of are they technically inclined to accept these kids who are not academically inclined and to help them up through their secondary school years? The capacity of the schools. Do we have schools large enough? I mean, some of the secondary schools are bursting at their seams already. GBSS, 835 students. Are they able to take in more kids? This knee-jerk moment where we decide that's what we're going to do, is it because we want to add to the list of achievements, the annual, the 100-day, not 100-day, the first year, the first year list of achievements? A universal education. I just think it's not fair to the schools, the teachers, the principals, the parents, the children, the kids. Because what is going to happen now is going to be an up, and out system again. And these kids are going to get lost by the wayside. We didn't want to leave them in the back. We brought them up a little, and they're going to get lost by the wayside. What we might have is dropouts. What we might have is they go up, and out. And at the end of the day, they're right where they started when they were pushed into the system and thrown into the lion's den. I leave this here, and I await further consultation on this and to see what happens probably over the holiday season, and see what the results are when we come to September, and the kids and the fitting in and how they progress during their first year at secondary level. I say congratulations to all the kids who are now starting their secondary education. We'll take a quick break and come right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back. I want to touch on another current affair, the Canada visa saga. On Tuesday, the 6th of June, Canada announced the addition of 13 countries to its electronic travel authorization ETA program for eligible travelers. 5 of those countries were Caribbean countries, Caribbean islands, Antigua and Barbuda, St. Kitts Nevis, St. Vincent and the Grenadines, St. Lucia and Trinidad and Tobago. Grenada and Dominica, noticeably, are nowhere to be found. Now, if you held a Canadian visa over the past 10 years, within the past 10 years, and an American, and you have a valid American non-immigrant visa, you can use the ETA system to travel to Canada without getting their visa. So we, Grenadians, now have to use, which was announced by the Canadian Consulate to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean, that will now have to still seek a visa, but it will be expedited. So they'll try to move a little quicker for us to get our visa to be able to travel to Canada. I've heard the Prime Minister, I think he was supposed to attend a meeting in the Bahamas, a heads of state meeting, and the Prime Minister of Canada, Justin Trudeau, was supposed to be the guest there. And our Prime Minister mentioned before going that he would speak to the Prime Minister of Canada on Grenada and why we still have to get visa to travel to Canada. I would want you to listen to the Prime Minister in his own words before I continue.
Certainly feel that there's no justification for continuing to require Grenadians to get a visa to travel to Canada. In fact, I think from where we sit, I think that there's no justification for a Grenadian to get a visa to travel anywhere in the world, because we really do not think that our citizens pose any security risk, any social risk to anyone. For the most part, Grenadians either travel for leisure, tourism purposes, or they travel to study, or they travel to work. And clearly, if they're traveling to work, they will only do so on proper documentation in the particular country in which they're going. So I don't think there's any. Grenada is not a place where people are persecuted. It's not a place where people are fleeing any political, social, or religious issues. We don't have an army. There's no risk there's no political, social, or economic risk, I think, to any country posed by Grenada. And so we really don't think there should be any visa restrictions on our citizens, particularly to a former colony of the UK and a former member of the Commonwealth. So we certainly would be raising that issue with the Prime Minister of Canada.
I don't know what happened at the meeting when he went to the Bahamas, but this is where we are today. 5 other islands can travel to Canada with just on an valid American non-immigrant visa. And here we are. But I want to tell the Prime Minister that it has nothing to do with the born and bred Grenadians. It has nothing to do with us. It has to do with our CBI program. It has to do with our CBI program. We have persons out there carrying our passports, citizens of Grenada, so to speak, that can't speak a word of English, that has never touched the soil of this little rock, but they are carrying citizen by investment passports. They are citizens of Grenada. And that is the reason why we have issues with Canada and our visa. But not sure how we're getting out of this one, because the NDC came into office and did not try to fix the CBI program that we now have. In 2013, the NNP initiated this CBI program. They went to the parliament, and at the time, of course, remember, it was a 15-0, so we had no seats in the lower house. But the Governor General had given instruments to 3 members of the NDC, Mr. Nazimberg, Mrs. Franca Alexis Bernadine, and Mr. George Vincent. And when that act came into Parliament, the upper house in the Senate, it was basically for ironclad, I would say, for want of a better word, then. And with minor issues that the opposition had, it eventually passed. But the NNP brought it back to Parliament several times and amended that bill, watered down the bill. And here we are today with this bill, this act. The Prime Minister, the NDC, when taking office in 2022, instead of amending the bill, they made it worse, as a matter of fact. When shortly after taking office, the chairman of the CBI committee announced to the world that we were going to be selling our passports to the Russians again. When the war in Ukraine started, the US and the European Union asked the Caribbean to stop doing CBI business with Russia, which they adhered to, Grenada being one. But after 2022, Grenada, the elections of 2022 in June, Grenada started to sell passports to Russia again and announced it to the world. Yes, indeed, Prime Minister, Grenadians, we are calm, loving, kind, gentle, wouldn't hurt a fly for the most part. But we are not the problem, as I said before. And I guess this is the price we have to pay for development. Onyx wants to be a part of this. This is the price we have to pay for development. You yourself said it. Development comes with a price. Let's run that clip.
But we also have to be honest. Development also has a price.
Yes, it also have to come with a price. And the price is that we have to go to Trinidad and seek visa to go to Canada. Even when some of the islands that was not on there, don't have that had visa restrictions, are now free to travel just by having a valid American non-immigrant visa. Or if you had a Canadian visa 10 years ago, 9 years ago, that's no longer valid. You can, through the ETA, because the electronic system is attached to the passport. It lasts for 5 years, or if your visa expires, your passport expires, I'm sorry, but whichever one expires first, whichever one happens first. But they now have that privilege that we do not have. And so I ask of you to go back to the drawing board with the CBI program. I have no issues with the CBI program. We need the citizens, we need the investments. But go back to the drawing board and let's have a more secure, that protects our passport. You know, the former administration used to say, and not the NNP, no, I'm speaking about the NDC actually, of 2008, that our passports are out there selling like fish cakes. And we protested and of this CBI program and the way it was going. And some of these same persons are now in high office with this NDC, and we hear nothing about the CBI program anymore. It's not improved. It's the same, but we hear nothing from these people. They lost their tongue. How sad. How sad. 30 pieces of silver can make you lose your morals and your beliefs and make you lose your tongue. When the Prime Minister was asked about the CBI program in one of his very early interviews, and the NDC, and the way they protested against the CBI program, he quickly said, "Not me." And he's correct, because he was not a member of the NDC in 2000 and between 2008 and 13 and after. It's only a year ago. A year and some, he became a member of the NDC. So he is correct. But all of you who's sitting up there collecting checks and not saying a word, don't complain. Why are we complaining where we are today? Why are we complaining where we are today? Don't complain. And talking a lot of nonsense about Grenada is the most secure. Trinidad have so much fighting and killing, and it has nothing to do with that. It has to do with the sale of our passports. So the Grenada CBI program, if I might explain, just to give you a little insight of what the program is all about, is the only CBI program that offers visa-free travel to 140 countries in the world. Those citizens under the CBI program also has access to the American E2 visa, which the Americans shift a bit when probably they see what's happening. I think you have to wait 3 years now to get that E2 visa. But if you're a citizen by investment and you want to 3 years is no time to wait to get that E2 visa. which allows an individual to enter and work in the United States based on an investment in a U.S. business. The E2 visa is valid for 3 months to 5 years and can be extended indefinitely. In August of 2013, when the CBI program was introduced in the Parliament of Grenada by the NMP administration, as I said before, it was pretty okay. And the members of the opposition, they were pretty okay with it, with a few little issues. And then it kept going back to Parliament and being amended. The CBI Act was passed, and we started to sell passports. To acquire a Grenada citizenship, one have to choose of one or two available investment options. One, non-refundable contributions, US dollars 150 and up for a single applicant, and 200,000 USD and up for a family, meaning spouse, children under 18, children 18 to 29, supported by main applicant or spouse, children aged 18 and over, physically or mentally challenged, parents or guardian of the main applicant or spouse, if fully supported by the main applicant, siblings of the main applicant or spouse, whether biological or adopted, age at least 18, unmarried and without children. Government approved real estate purchase. That's the second part. USD $220,000. The investment can be returned in 5 years. The CBI was updated on the 28th of March 2023, that's this year. To apply for a CBI, you select an authorized agent to help with the application process. Fill and submit the necessary documents. Documents must follow CBI standards. Submit documents are assessed by the CBI committee. If approved, the applicants choose their investment route. After the investment is completed and the paperwork is done, the applicant may enjoy being a Grenadian citizen. It's as easy as that. The process takes roughly 4 to 6 months. You see, the NDC party condemned, as I said, and protested against the CBI again, over and over and over for 10 months. We marched in the streets. Yes, I was a part of it. And so the ones of you that are sitting up there in the top, I beg of you, those of you in cabinet who've been there, we have Mr. Andel, we have Honorable Joseph Andel, we have Honorable Adrian Persuader Thomas, we have Honorable Ron Redhead, Tevin, Andrew, Honorable Karine James, Honorable Philip Telesford was our treasurer at one point, right up there in the party. All of you who been there and protested against this said CBI system. No change. As I said, with addition, we now selling passports again to Russia. Please. Because that's only how we probably get a little in. And it might get worse. I know that the UK was watching us very closely. The US. So let's try, and let's, in cabinet, in, I don't know, whatever meetings you have, probably party meetings, because we have the ones like my dear friend Vincent Roberts and others who were adamant. Mr. Nazim Bukt, as I said, Uncle Tilly, who, right? We were selling passports like fish cakes. That was the statement we used when we spoke on platforms, when we spoke at pocket meetings. So let's not talk about our citizens and how good we are, and we don't understand why Trinidad and Jamaica and whoever else can go to Canada without a visa, and we can't. We know why. We know why very well. I'll take a break. I'll come right back. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode. Welcome back. I received a call from an owner, manager of a security firm. And we know in the news the past couple of weeks, we had been hearing, and out there on social media and everywhere, the stories of the security firms and the nepotism and tribalism and victimization that continues under this NDC government. It's getting worse. And I did promise you to bring you this story. I had some verifications to do. It's something that, it sounds like a movie, and not an ordinary movie, a fictional movie. But indeed, it's a reality movie that's happening right here in Grenada. The gentleman said to me, he has a firm, his firm is 20 years old. He employed 64 workers, plus office staff. So 64 security workers plus his office staff. He has an office, a proper system going in place. 20 years. That's his way of life. He was trained. He had his workers are being trained. That's his bread and butter. That's the only bread and butter he has coming to him to take care of him and his family, to pay his mortgage and his bills. He's the breadwinner. And remember, I told you he had 64 workers. So they received, that is the ones who've been on the job when the NDC took office, the security companies, they received termination letters. And well, let's read the letter. Can you put it on the screen for me as well? So the letter says, it's a short letter, so we'll go through it quickly. If you can read from the screen as well, I just want to see the authenticity of the letter. Please be advised that effective August the 7th, 2023, your contract dated May the 1st, 2013, and made between the government of Grenada and yourself for the provision of security services at the St. George's Market under the Ministry of Infrastructure, Public Utilities, Civil Aviation and Transportation shall officially be terminated pursuant to clause termination 2 in the contract. This is necessary to facilitate a new security arrangement under the ministry responsible for national security, Ministry of National Security, Home Affairs, Public Administration, Information, and Disaster Management, to take effect August the 8th, 2023. The government of Grenada wishes to express gratitude to your security service rendered to date and listen to the end of this, and wishes you success in your future endeavor. Now, and it was signed by the Permanent Secretary, Sylvia Bennett Thomas, Mrs. Sylvia Bennett Thomas. Now, when I saw the letter, and I saw the end of the letter, I was like, this is saying farewell, wishing you all the best in your future endeavors. But according to what was related to the security firms, was that they wanted to put all of the security, for the government security, under one umbrella, under the Ministry of National Security. Nothing wrong with that, because before they went under the ministry that, like, in other words, okay, if you had a contract for the hospital, it came under the Ministry of Health. If you had a school, it came under education. But they wanted to put it under, all of it under the Ministry of National Security, which they quickly realized was a trick to get rid of them and to employ the supporters of the NDC who were out there, some of them getting very disgruntled that they're not getting anything to do, others who, and most of them who are retired and collecting a pension, right, have now registered security firms, which they were told to do when they go knocking on the doors of the powers that be. Maybe their representatives but they were told, go register a security company and come back. We're going to fix you up. Right? The Ministry of National Security, the line minister is the Prime Minister himself, Honorable Deacon Mitchell, and the person in charge of security is the former COP, Mr. William Thompson. So apparently there are lots of retired policemen, ex-policemen who now owns, and even policemen on the job, who now own security firms and have gotten contracts. The gentleman said he also did the letter I read, it was for the markets, but they got letters for each contract they had. And he also had the Radoon contract. And we might have seen that in the news, the evening news, where Radoon went for a couple of days without security. And the reason being, he got a letter terminating his contract for Radoon, and that as of the 31st of May. So he did not show up on the 1st of June. And neither did anybody else. If it's not broken, don't try to fix it. And so 2 days went by and nobody showed up. No, the new security firm that was contracted, if it was, because it seems like under the Ministry of Security, they're not so sure what they're doing. They never did it before. As I said, it was done by the different ministries. And so It's all over the place. To date, I understand that they're now sharing the security with the mental hospital. Now, Radun is a section of the mental hospital. That's where people have slight mental breakdowns, going through depression, and so that's where they are. That's the section where the nurse was attacked and got hurt badly and was unable to use one of her hands. And so then the then government, the then administration, put security there at Radun. And this security firm was there up until now when they were terminated. So on the evening of May 31st, he got a call from the Ministry of National Security, urgently, it was in the afternoon, late afternoon, to come in, and that he was awarded 2 contracts. When he got there, he was given an appointment letter, because the contracts were not ready, an appointment letter to do the security for the Methodist school in the junior Methodist school, the primary Methodist school in Queen's Park. That was one of his contracts before. They had no clue, they didn't know, they just gave him that contract. And he was told that he would have 1 security. And he secured the school from 6 to 6, 12 hours a day. They now gave him 24 hours. He mentioned to them that there are 2 schools on the compound. There's also a pre-primary school there. They didn't know that, which shows that they didn't visit the sites because it's new to them. Somebody else did that before, and that would have been under the Ministry of Education. And so that they can assess, because they gave him 1 security. He can only use 1 security for the 24 hours. And when I say that, I don't mean that 1 security had to do the 24 hours. He can do shifts, but only 1 security at a time. And he said to them that cannot work with 2 schools. And they said to him, that's what's budgeted for now. You'd have to go ahead and do it, and we'll see what happens along the way. Which he did. So he went back to the school in River Road, the 2 schools. And they gave him another contract for the GBSS, and that's a new one, for the GBSS. And he also was only allowed 1 security. And the same process, the 24-hour instead of 12, which he did before for the other school, how he did it. And that he should go ahead the next day and start, and the principals are aware, and you go to them and make yourself known. You come the next day when he went. The principals had no idea what he was talking about. They didn't know that he was coming. They didn't know who was supposed to be doing the security work. They didn't even know that there were terminated contracts. So in River Road, when his men went to the 6 p.m. job, the previous security personnel was there, not knowing that they were terminated. If they did get, but probably they didn't get the letter. So they gave this gentleman a contract to work for 24 hours. So the 6 p.m. to 6 a.m. shift, the persons who worked there, they showed up, had to go back. In the market square, when his men that contract is up on the 7th of August, I know it sounds crazy, huh? On the 7th of August, so he's still on the job in the market sway. His contract is terminated on the 7th of August. On the 1st of June, one of the new security firm owner showed up with a guy and the manager of the market, and they tore in the market with his men on the job and asking them to leave because they now have the contract. When they called in, he said, well, you have to remain on the job until the 7th of August. So the gentleman and his one guy left, and they continued doing their duty. It's all over the place. And as I say again, if it ain't broken, don't fix it. Don't fix it. He now has only the GBS's contract and the River Road contract, the schools at the Queen's Park, and of course terminated. The others are terminated up until August. They were called in on the 9th of June to officially sign their contract. He spent the day. Most people spend the day because it's a 12-page contract. You have to read and try to understand and sign it there. They wouldn't let you leave with it. And some of the things he didn't understand, he needed a lawyer to help him. And so he couldn't leave with it, so he left without signing the contract. He had to, they said, take notes and bring it to his lawyer to see. There are several ex-policemen, retired policemen who are now holding contracts. The police officer who was involved in the alleged sexual molestation of a young lady who was in custody, in protective custody at the SSU camp. It is alleged he now holds a contract and is securing the financial complex. We have our big bad boy, Ian Django Thomas, who is the advisor to the Minister of Youth, Culture and Sports, allegedly now holding contract, has schools under the ministry that he's advising. The Happy Hill Secondary School, I heard, is one of them. And it's just a continuation of the same old nepotism, the victimization of workers. Some of these people have jobs. A police officer now holds some 8 contracts, allegedly so. Now, they have jobs. They're collecting second job and third jobs money. And you're taking away bread from an individual who put his resources. And there are others, but I can't do all in an hour. I'm already running out of time, right? But all his resources, train his people, train himself. He actually left his day job that he did before to do this, to go into this security business. And because he might be perceived, because he was hired by the NNP, he's perceived NNP, and you want to put him out of work? That is ridiculous. I mean, when would it end? When will it end? So it's a kind of a crazy story, but I had to bring it to you to show that all the talks about stamping out nepotism, as I said last week, I really don't know if the Prime Minister knew of these things. I remember in 2008 when some officials of the NDC thought that they could register a security company and moving on the security firms that were there at government places, the marketplace, for instance. And that's how we knew when it came up in the news. And we saw people, young people, crying on the screen that this group of people came in and told them that that's their last day. Well, Uncle Tilly wasn't having it because that was the first he knew of it as well. And he stopped it. And the firm that was there remained. And the people kept their jobs. These guys had jobs. One had a big director position in one of our firms. The other one had a day job. And they were ready to move in and take over because NDC was in office. But Uncle Tilly stopped it. And that's why I'm asking, where is Uncle Tilly in all of this these days? Poor thing. You know? And so it's happening all over again. But this time, it's being done from the Ministry of National Security with the former COP, Mr. William Thompson, in charge of security. Folks, that's all the time we have today. Thank you for listening again. Thank you for joining, Simon Says. Thank you for tuning in to Simon Says. To ensure that you never miss an episode, click subscribe and make sure to turn on the notifications by clicking on the notification bell icon. See you at the next episode.